The first shipment of U.S. military aid has arrived in Israel. This comes after Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu promised to escalate the bombardment of Gaza. President Joe Biden has expressed his full support for Israel. Let's go live now to Kimberly Halkett, our White House correspondent in Washington, D.C. And Kimberly, as the hours pass in Gaza, it's clear that a very dire humanitarian situation is transpiring. Our correspondent there talking about entire neighborhoods being wiped out. As the U.S. is sending weapons, I'm wondering, is there any discussion going on about ensuring that these weapons are not being used to target civilians and the operations of wiping out neighborhoods that reporters are talking about?
Well, what I can tell you is that the Secretary of State, Antony Blinken, is headed to meet with the Israeli Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu, and he will be traveling on Wednesday. What we know is that part of those conversations will include the discussion of safe passage for the residents of Gaza. Folded into that conversation will also be officials from Egypt, because, of course, the question becomes, although the residents of Gaza are purportedly being warned about the bombings that may be taking place of apartment blocks and so on, the question becomes, where are they supposed to go? There is no place for safe refuge. And so, as a result, many humanitarian groups and international groups have flagged the fact that there is nowhere to go. And so this discussion of safe passage is being discussed. The National Security Advisor, Jake Sullivan, spoke to White House reporters on Tuesday, did not elaborate a lot about what discussions are underway, but certainly has said that those are discussions that the Secretary of State has embarked upon.
And so just to put it in context then, is the thinking that the idea is that an evacuation will be arranged of Palestinians in Gaza to move them towards Egypt?
He did not elaborate at all on any of the details. He simply said that there was a discussion underway.
All right, we'll leave it there. Thanks so much, Kimberly Halkett. And the UK Foreign Secretary James Cleverly has arrived in Israel to show unwavering support. For more on this, let's speak to Al Jazeera's Neave Barco's live for us in London. So, Neave, what's the message from the UK?
Well, the message is very clearly more unequivocal support for Israel. From the outset, that has been the standpoint of the British government. And now, of course, we're seeing it played out on the ground with this visit by Britain's Foreign Secretary James Cleverly. He will be meeting with Israeli politicians and lawmakers, as well as, we believe, some of the victims of the weekend's attack. It follows warm words coming from Rishi Sunak towards Benjamin Netanyahu earlier on in the week, in which the British Prime Minister said that if asked, Britain would be prepared to provide intelligence and diplomatic support to the Israeli government in the wake of these attacks. The problem is here in the UK that there is a tremendous amount of concern about the black and white nature in which this entire conflict is being seen, without any wider context being referred to by the British government or indeed any opposition parties. I mean, Hamas back in 2021 was designated as a terrorist organisation. And as such, the British Home Secretary Suella Braverman has told British policemen that if any Palestinian flags are flown, any unsavoury chants chanted at pro-Palestinian rallies, then people could well potentially be arrested. Those moves could be seen as illegal, and that's very much likely to deepen the rift that is already pretty big between opposing versions, opposing interpretations of what we're seeing play out in Israel and Gaza. Very, very little reference, if any, to the plight of Palestinians. We have had few comments, probably the most vocal, and we had him on Al Jazeera earlier on in the day, from Hamza Youssef, the First Minister of Scotland, whose relatives are in Gaza. He is probably one of very, very few prominent politicians who are doing everything possible to try and shine a light on what's going on in Gaza and call for a humanitarian corridor.
All right, thanks so much, Neave there from London.